And we're alive. And
now
why
we are.
is Aleana cracking up so much? Because we were just riffing for the past like 3 minutes, thinking we were live,
but we weren't.
because the countdown stopped, and we had some solid gold in there too. This is
it's okay. We had an audience of spiritual guides sitting around.
we totally did. We totally did. We had all of Joey the Mets fans, spirit guides sitting around, like just taking it all in. Like, you two are amazing.
Yeah, man. All right, so great to be here.
Well, happy Friday, one and all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in this world you may be, or whichever dimension you're watching this from. And Aleana, I think it's safe to say, and stop me if I'm wrong, that if somebody is in like a higher dimension and watching like a LinkedIn Live on a Friday, it opens up more questions than it answers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that exactly.
Hey,
hello, you radiant being of light, Jen Russman. You.
Yeah, I loved you guys' episode. It was so much fun.
Thank you much. And this is going to be amazing too. And folks, if you are not connected with Aleana, if you are not following Aleana, then you are missing out, and you're all going to want to be connected with her when this show is done. That is a promise.
What he said. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think it's a little early for that's what he said, but we put a few minutes, and we may find ourselves on the Banhammer train before this is all said and done.
Yep.
Dude, we're gonna get nuts today, so don't even worry about that. Don't
worry. There'll be plenty.
Oh, I know we're on LinkedIn because we got our first agree.
Wait, what?
We got our first agree of the day.
Oh, love it. Imed is one of my favorite creators on LinkedIn. It's so good to see you here, man.
Yeah, you're amazing. I love your stuff. And if all of you are not following Imed, that's your guy.
You have to. Yeah. I love seeing people who are bringing that, business is changing, and we're seeing it on LinkedIn, and I love it because I remember years ago, whenever anybody tried to get me to use LinkedIn, I'd be like, no, fuck no, I'm not going on that place. But now it's completely different. The vibe is different. And I'm seeing more and more people who are building businesses with passion and purpose, and genuine passion and purpose, not that like marketing speak, So I love it.
Not radical authenticity, which is carefully curated to be radical.
Oh my God, yeah, don't get me started. Yeah. Yeah.
Make it happen, my man. Make it happen. It will be a good life choice on your part, I promise you.
Yeah.
Friends, we are here today to talk about the concept of finding your inner child once again.
Mm-hmm.
Inner child that got lost a long time ago, buried under 10,000 pounds of bills and stress and bad backs and all the rest that take us down a rabbit hole away from who and what we truly are.
Yep.
And Aleana is an exceptional guest for like any show. You could have a show about like freaking hardware in Iowa, and like Aleana will be a great guest for it. But particularly this topic, because Aleana is somebody who I consider to be a great friend, a spiritual thought leader, a creative genius. And
wow, thank you.
Great talk. No pressure.
Flattered. Yeah, none at all. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you look at Aleana's profile, it says, and I quote, I did not make this up, I help spiritual creatives unclench their buttholes.
Yeah, that's what I do. I kept trying to find a way to capture what I do in, 150 characters. And it was driving me nuts, man. Like, it was impossible. I was like, I can't. And I tried, and it was really frustrating because my background is in marketing and branding. So I should be able to say something, but I couldn't. So I was like, you know what? I help spiritual creatives unclench their buttholes. And it was a great business decision because everybody that came through my profile from that point onwards was somebody that I resonated with. So it was great.
I love it. Well, I can tell you personally, it saved me several trips to the proctologist. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I thought you were going to say the bottom of something else, but all right.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah. Give it a half an hour. I want to start out with something that you wrote when we were talking about promoting the show. And I really love this, and this stuck out to me. So I want to just put it up here on the screen. And I want you to tell us what this means to you. So each of us is
Mm.
a unique expression of the universe. According to Aleana, what does that mean?
Oh, that's one of my favorite things to say always, because it's it's one of those things that just sounds like a nice thing to say, but until you really think about it, and it's when it sinks in, you cannot unsee it. Okay. So teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said that if you don't have to be a poet to look at a sheet of paper to see that there are clouds floating in it, the clouds become the rain becomes the tree becomes the paper, and then the paper, changes, recycles into something else. So there's no beginning or end, there's no birth and death, there's only transformation. When you think about our nature, our true nature, it's this everlasting, eternal nature that cannot be known with the mind, but can be experienced. I was actually just thinking about it this morning in the pool. I was like, I was floating and I'm looking up at the clouds and I'm like, I don't know what it's like to be a cloud. And then I was like, does the cloud know what it's like to be a cloud? And I swear I'm not stoned. Like, I was completely sober. Does a cloud know
Sure.
what it's like to be
Let's go with
a
that.
cloud? And I was like, hold on. So what does it mean to even know? Like, the word knowing, what does it mean? And I realized that you only know when you have personally experienced something. There's a lot of things that we say we know, and we know them like mentally, we know a piece of information, but until you got to experience it and feel it in your bones, you don't really know it. So knowing that we exist, for example, knowing who we are, only happens when we experience ourselves. So each of us is a unique expression of the universe. What it means is that your true nature is eternal, but you are expressing as the universe, you are expressing in this unique form, in this present moment, here and now, as this avatar, as this being. And the beautiful thing about being a human being, as opposed to, and I see like divinity and beauty in everything. There's nothing in existence that is not divine, including nothingness. But a human being, the privilege of being a human being is that we get to choose the different avatars that we express, and we get to really shuffle through as many avatars as we want to in a lifetime. Like, I can be anyone who I want to be. I've gone by lots of names. I've done lots of things in my life. Pardon me. I've played lots of roles. And the more unattached you become to who you think you are in the present moment in this form, the more you get to experience from this infinity of the creator, because you are the creator itself. There's really no difference. And again, this is not something that we know by just thinking about it, but when we go back to that place that you called it in your book, Perfectia, right? Like going home, that feeling when you know that you are, it's not just joy or happiness. It's just this like undescribable feeling of just being home, right? And that's what I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I belong. This is who I am. Everyone here, I don't know how many people have children, but I'm sure every one of us was a child at some point, right? I know I was a child at some point. And putting aside your experiences as a child and all of the barriers that children and adults have to protect ourselves, I think we can all agree that every child, every person is born with a unique essence, a unique expression that is, even like two siblings, even if they're twins, same life conditions, they are completely unique. We have two cats. They're very different. They have their own different characters.
What are their names?
Kala and Kashmir.
Kala and Kashmir.
Yeah. Kala and Kashmir.
Oh, damn. I really wish you wouldn't have said. This is going to get flagged in India now, like for real.
Why?
Just by saying Kashmir, we're going to get banned in India. It's like a hot button word.
Why? Kala is not necessarily, well, it's not
No,
offensive.
Kala is good, but Kashmir is going to be a problem. I'm just saying, like, it's a geopolitical flashpoint. It's a whole thing. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Thanks for nuking my show. I appreciate you.
Well, I think that these like lines, geographical lines, are a little silly, honestly. Like saying that we are from this place or that place. I've lived on all continents except for the North and South Pole. So it's like people are people, period, Anyway, so yeah, I know. I'm aware of that whole. I went actually. I did go to that border line between India and Pakistan, and I got to enjoy the show. It was really fun. But yeah, it's we are all unique in our own ways, and we are a unique expression, and we get to experience. This is not coming from a place of scarcity, as this is my only chance to express, but it is your only chance to express who you are in this form right here, right now. I don't know what happens after or before, if there is a before and after, right? I don't know. I believe that our souls, our spirits live on. There's no life. There's no death. There's no birth and death. There's only life, period. That's how I see it. But do I know that? Not in this form. I haven't experienced that except on psychedelics.
No.
So, it's not something that I've experienced in the same way that I experience this. But there's a sense of knowing when I go within and I meditate. I know that there is an essence within me that's eternal, and that it came here in this form to express itself and take us to church. Yes, Jessica.
That's it. That's what's up. You're taking us to church. I think that's exactly it. I think that's the core of what this whole idea really is, because coming home to ourselves is coming home to our essence. It's coming home to the core of who and what we really are. Yeah. But that's best expressed through our inner child.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The child connected with that.
Yeah.
And adults are not.
Mm-hmm. And I think that when people hear child, they think childish, and it's not what the inner child is. The inner child is ancient and wise. The inner child is not really a child. It's the reason why we think nature, when we think of something natural, we think of nature, is because of its purity. Nature expresses itself as pure consciousness without agenda. It doesn't exist for you and me. It just exists to be. It just is. It expresses itself. It's not creating fruits because it's trying to collect leads on LinkedIn and grow its newsletter list. You know what I mean? It just is. Yeah. And not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. Like I'm very business minded, but it just doesn't have an agenda other than just expressing itself. And as human beings, we want to express our joy. And the child, when you look at a child, they get it on a visceral level, that they just follow these trails of curiosity, of joy, of expansion, of, they see things as they are. And that's the real meaning of innocence. It's not, being naive. That's not what innocence is. That's not what purity is. What it is to see things as they really are. That means when I look at said tree, I don't see it as there's this plant that exists for me to make me fruits and to create, whatever for me. It just is. And I remove the labels that I have on it. So I see it as it is, with as little labeling as possible. Reconnecting with the inner child, as I mentioned, last time when you and Jen were having the conversation, like the child never goes away. It's always there. And the idea is that to know who you are, you have to first know who you are not. And to know who you are not, you have to peel the layers of attachment. I am not my job. I am not my business. I am not my achievements. I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not my past. I am not my creations. I am not any of that. So what am I? All that I can be is what I can experience. And that is not bound by time and space,
That's a great point. It's these labels that we get lost in, and these avatars and these characters. In the book, Smooth, this character of Smooth, he's playing the story of Smooth, but the story of Smooth is a shifting, fluid, ever evolving thing. It's not this one point in time. And as adults, we just get fixated on this. I am a branding coach. I am an accountant. I am a mom. I am this. I am that. And you get fixed into this. And that's something you do. But this idea of that's what you are boxes you in to mean you can't be anything else.
And that's one of the biggest challenge I experienced when, just for those listening who may not have context. So I built a couple of e-commerce businesses, and then I had a marketing consulting business with focus on brand loyalty and retention. So businesses would hire me to basically turn their customers into these crazy fans and find what is it that would, ignite that passion and emotion in people. So I did a lot of branding and marketing back in the day. But then when it came to doing this, when I had this realization that what I really longed for was something much deeper than just that. I still love marketing. I still love branding. I still love business. But, I started to see it as, it's going to sound crazy, but actually a path, a spiritual path in itself, because you label yourself, but without attachment to the label. You have to label yourself because that's what branding is. And that was the challenge for me, that I was like, hold on, like, I don't want to label myself. I don't want to encourage people to label themselves. I don't want them to limit themselves to these avatars. And yet at the same time, that's the work that I do. And that's necessary, because you have to cut through the noise and you have to explain to complete strangers, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I do it. So how are you going to do that without having these labels? And then I started to realize, oh, the work is to actually go within and figure out, what is it that's true to me? Who am I? And who do I want to be in the world? And then the avatar, it's okay to play with that. It's okay to like wear a mask, and you can play with as many masks as you want to be, that doesn't make you inauthentic. Inauthenticity, what it is that you prioritize between doing what brings you joy, genuine joy for your inner child, versus offloading that to the outer world and hoping that the outer world gives you the emotions that you're looking for. Inauthenticity means that you are looking outwardly instead of looking within. You are neglecting yourself emotionally, and then you're looking out there to the world, and you're hoping that by presenting yourself in a certain type of way, somebody is going to make you feel the way you hope to feel. When in reality, what you need to do is feel the way you want to feel, create from that place, and then reflect that to the outer world. And what the world wants from you more than anything is to express your joy. Truly, like, that's what people want. They just want to see your joy. That's it. That's really it.
Yeah. Preach to the rooftops and beyond. This is what we lose in adulthood all the time. Is this connection with our authentic, radiant, playful joy, in search of this external validation of, I'm going to be this character, I'm going to play it well, and you will therefore love me because of it. And I'll fill this hole with that. And it could be money, it could be fame, looks, whatever you want to be. The almighty algorithm, we bow before all of it. And in this platform, it certainly is.
It is really hard, even though everything that I told you, and I really mean it, and I live by it day by day, second by second. But it doesn't mean I'm not affected to some degree. Like, I'd be lying to you if I said there isn't part of me that wants these things. Of course, I want people to perceive me in a certain type of way, but I also don't care. It's like, it's nice. When it happens, it feels great, but it's not as important as how I feel about me and what I think about myself,
Absolutely. Think about the actors who play these roles, and some of them are these dynamite roles. And I think about some of my favorite movies. I think about Shawshank Redemption. And I love Morgan Freeman. And I know we talked about not bringing up all these.
No, I know Morgan Freeman. I know who he is. Yeah.
I had to do this one because this one is just one of my favorites, and I think it's so.
I haven't seen it, but I heard great things about it. And now that you said it, I'm going to watch it. Yeah.
Highly recommend it. It's one of the great epics of our time. It will speak to your soul in a way that only a campy 80s comedy can otherwise. But it's a great movie for so many different reasons. But one that really jumps out to me is the character that Morgan Freeman plays in this. And he is the main protagonist's best friend in prison. And he's kind of this loving, gentle guide. He's like this wise hand. And he helps him through all these different adversities. The whole time he's playing this character. It's Morgan Freeman playing this character, and yet he plays the character so well that it moved people. And I think this comes back to, what can we do to help move people into action, to move them into their best, most expansive life while playing these characters and honoring these characters, but not becoming the characters?
Wow, that's such a good question. That is such a good question. Wow. I think the first thing is to go within and anchor ourselves in a sense of knowing of who we are and sense of complete and radical self-love. When you anchor yourself in this radical self-love, things are going to happen. People are going to misunderstand you. Okay. But it doesn't shake you. And then you start to see that the character, the avatar that you're wearing, it serves a purpose. Right. So for example, when I think of who is Aleana, the character, not the true Aleana, is something I can only experience. I don't know. I could find words to try to describe it, but I can only experience it myself. Nobody in this universe knows what it's like to be the true Aleana.
Speak for yourself. I was you in a different dimension, but go on.
Yeah. But the character that is Aleana that presents itself, whether that's how it presents itself to other people or how it is presenting or how it's behaving on a day-to-day basis, it's a programming. It's really just a programming. It's like, okay, what's the next thing that I want to create? What's the next thing I want to achieve? And who is the person who can achieve this effortlessly? Who do I have to be in order for this to be the effortless manifestation or effortless creation in this world? And then you go and you program that. And it's really a matter of balancing. When you think of all the character traits, what we consider virtue is really just a balance. Everything is two extremes, good, bad, quote unquote, like those just simplistic good,
Polarity.
bad. Yeah, polarities, exactly. These polarities. And what we consider to be virtuous or good is to be in balance. It's not to be an extreme of what is positive or the extreme of the quote unquote negative. Those polarities, they're just there to show us different sides. But sometimes you have to lean more on this side or more on this side to create a little bit of a balancing act. So you have to be unattached to, I am this way, I am shy, I'm introverted, I'm extroverted, I am happy, I am sad, I am this, I'm that, I'm hardworking, I'm not hardworking. I'm all of it and none of it at the same time. But who do I need to be next in the next friction of a second, in the next nanosecond? Who do I need to be right now in order to manifest these results? And this is easier said than done. I'm not saying that I'm sitting here like levitating and doing this all the time effortlessly. Trust me, there's a lot of speak for yourself again, right? It's not so easy. It's not without any friction or any resistance. There's always resistance. Ego gets a bad rap. Like we look at ego and we think it's such a bad thing. It's not. Like it's a state of awareness. It's a sense of separation that is necessary, right? So ego just wants to create something to be attached to. This is who I am because it makes it feel real. Like I am real, even though we are real, but I am real. I'm Aleana. I'm a real person in this world right now. And so it's very easy to start getting attached to that. But the more you can train yourself to let go of it on a day-to-day basis and be unattached, the more humble this ego becomes and starts to see itself as part of everything, not this bad thing that needs to be rejected or killed. Holy shit, spiritual people being like, kill the ego. Why?
Strangle it.
Kill the ego. I wouldn't get the fuck out. Like I wouldn't get out of my bed tomorrow if there was no ego. Why would I do anything at all? I am already an infinite being. I'm already God. Like
it's a vessel. It's just
what's the point? Right? It's like let go of it. It's not a bad thing. But the more we can accept it, the more it can relax and unclench its own butthole so that it can actually work with us. Because the job of the ego, the function of the ego is to create for the heart. It's to go out there and get shit done for the heart to have what it really desires.
Experience.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question from Laura, and I have a million thoughts on this, but Aleana, I'd love to hear yours. Suggestions on how to feel complete in yourself rather than looking to others. This is something a lot of people struggle with. This is a very common question. I'd love to get your perspective on this.
On how to feel complete essentially by yourself without other people's...
How to feel complete in yourself rather than looking to others for validation or a feeling of completeness or any of that.
It comes down to not neglecting yourself emotionally. Lori, I'm not saying like this is something we all do to varying degrees. We go brush it under the rug, suck it up. Don't worry about it. It's not so bad, right? Maybe sometimes because something is so painful, so we abandon ourselves and we just don't look at the child and what the child needs. But when you take care of your own emotions and you tend to your own emotions and you start going back to all of the thing is you already feel complete. You are already complete and you know that you are already complete. That's not like you're missing a piece and you're going to go find that piece within yourself or out there. So you have to start by recognizing that there is an illusion first, an illusion that you are not complete. It's a feeling. So if you're not feeling complete, then you have to go to the feeling. You have to address the feeling. And that's the painful part that we run away from because it's painful. So instead of looking at it, we look out to the world, we give the world what the world wants and hope that the world is going to take care of our feelings. Hope that the world is going to look at us and say, you are complete, you are perfect, you are enough, you are worthy, instead of doing that for ourselves.
I love that. It's right. It's this illusory idea of incompleteness, and but it feels very real, and it looks very, very
Sure.
real.
Sure.
And there's no conscious discernment between the illusion and what reality is in that sense. Because people will say, I need, if I'm an entrepreneur, I need the validation that I'm on the right track. If I'm an actor, I need the Academy Award to validate that I know what the hell I'm doing on that stage. If I'm a comedian, I need those laughs from the crowd. By the way, y'all better laugh, seriously. I need those laughs. I'm not even like, don't. I need those laughs.
You get the laughs, and then very quickly you want more laughs, right?
Yes. And actually,
it doesn't give you the feeling of completeness you think you're gonna get.
Never.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. And the best example I could use is all of the big comedians that we all kind of grew up with that became big superstars. When you look at them later in life, they still had all the same pathologies, the same addictions, the same everything. I mean, these are people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are still on every drug there is and are still miserable and depressed. And it didn't matter. No matter how much validation and love and success and fame, none of it ever mattered.
None of it mattered. Ever. None of it mattered. I had a very difficult childhood and difficult teenage years, and I started pretty early in my life wanting to make money. Like when I was a kid, I was more interested in arts, but then I quickly, when I was 17, I was like, okay, I got to make money to survive. And I spent all of my 20s actually, up until when I was 33, maybe, is when I started realizing, oh shoot, like this isn't good. But at least up until late 20s, all I did was pursue achievements, trying to feel like I was good enough. Yep. And the crazy thing is, I always had this thing that, okay, if only I could get this, then I'll feel complete. And I got it. Oh, if only I could get this, then I'll feel complete. If only I could get this. If only. And my rock bottom is my last business, when I woke up one day where I had literally everything. My whole life seemed perfect on paper. It wasn't just the business. It was everything that I ever thought I wanted. I had it. And I was still and in fact, I was feeling worse because I was like, now what? At least before I had all these like things. Okay, now what? Yeah.
Hey, Lenka.
Hey, Lenka.
That's good. There is something so profound to that. And this is why I love to talk about this idea of creating for the sake of creation. That's it. Because if we chase this, the creation is only going to be good if I get this validation. If it gets 1 million views, if it sells this, if it does that, you take all the joy, all the magic, all the juice out of it. It's all gone. And you're chasing and you're chasing and you're chasing, and you're chasing something that can never be caught.
And you cheapen creation too, because you're creating for the purpose of it becomes this manipulative game where you're not creating to express who you really are, but you're creating because, again, you're hoping that somebody else is going to validate your creation, and then you're going to feel a certain type of way. But you really, you're just taking like the longer, more complicated route that's not even going to get you where you want to go.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the beauty of that inner child. The inner child doesn't need validation. It never needs, because it knows it's whole. Like the kids running around, again, used last week, the magic marker, right? Got the magic marker right here and just scribbling on everything. The kid does not look at that wall and scribble on the wall with the sense of like, I need that to be validated by an art critic.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And yet when that kid, you put 20, 30, 40, 50 years on that kid, they're not going to create anything without that sense of
just a few years in school. It starts pretty early. In childhood, it starts. The inner child starts, the child starts losing their inner child as early as during their actual childhood. It's crazy.
I think a lot of it is just the way our education system is structured. And I think a lot of it is disconnected from the joy of creation when we start, putting testing in there. And then you start, it's like, it's the goal, right? It's like you learn for the test rather than for the joy of learning. And you suddenly start creating this disconnect. And then that goal orientation becomes such a part of us.
All right, Jeff, how do you expect the parents and the adults and the teachers to give that to the child when they haven't figured out how to give it to themselves? How do you expect that? Like, it's not malicious. It's just that with generation after generation after generation after generation, we live and die. not
It's
knowing
not
who
the
we
parents' fault.
are, disconnected, holding on to our phones and being like, can I
Yeah.
find anything on my feet today that will take away my pain?
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yep.
that will
Absolutely.
distract me a little bit from looking into how much I've neglected who I really am my whole life, my child, and my dreams and my desires as a kid. That, you know, we look back and we're like, ha ha ha, that was so
Mhm.
silly. But you are born with these things for a reason, and they will never leave you. You know, they will never leave you. They'll keep coming back for the rest of your life until you look at them. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, in a big way. And Carrie's, I mean, nailed it. That's it in the conditioning. And
yeah.
this is not, and it's not malicious. And and neither of us, I don't think, are saying this in a way to criticize or anything
No,
like that. This is
no.
just, it's so ingrained generationally, societally, culturally. This goes back so far
Mm-hmm.
that we are so unconscious within it, we don't even realize what's happening. We just become the vessels to carry it out in our generation.
Yeah.
And then teach the ones coming up behind us to carry it out in their generation. And we have the same anxieties and the same pathologies and the same insecurities, and they just repeat over and over and over again.
And it's not only not malicious, actually most of it is protection. Like, they want to protect us. They wanted to protect us as kids. Most
Yes.
parents, most teachers, they I'm not denying that some people are just a little bit out there, you know. I mean, I see that essence of divinity in everyone. I don't care if they're Hitler itself, like, it's there. It's always there. But some
You've
people
obviously never met Alabama fans, but
haven't had the pleasure, no. You know, some people have more trauma than others. Some people have more dis-ease than others, yes. But for the most part, people mean well. Even those that we, you know, I don't think anybody is quote unquote bad. But even if you were to look at a person who has committed the most horrific things in existence, they are doing that as a byproduct of a lot of things it's much more complicated than that person is bad or that person is good. But for the most part, people really mean well, and they want to protect the kid. They think that if the kid, for example, kept daydreaming past a certain age, and that kid is going to be disappointed like I was disappointed, so I'm trying to protect you.
yeah,
You know. Yeah.
this is really common, and I'm sure you experience this in different ways. And one thing, when I talk to people who are particularly children of immigrants, this is a very, very common thing, where the immigrant parents will come in, and I know this from my own family's experience and from a lot of people I talk to. They come from a place of survival, and they have life is about surviving. It's not about a creative expression. That's all BS, and it can't pay the bills. It's about surviving. Therefore, I'm going to condition you for a life of survival. You got to be good in math. You got to be good in science. You got to get the good grades to get to good university, to get a good job, to get a good house. This is what matters in life, and anything else is crap. It needs to be disregarded, and that gets internalized too, except for those who it doesn't. And then the friction and the wars begin.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness, like, I don't know how I ended up the way I am, but like, definitely was not raised in a family or an environment that encouraged being so odd. But it just is what it is, you know. And yeah, there was definitely friction. There was definitely friction. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ah, it's a great comment. I love this. Conditioning disconnects us from our wholeness. Because it's all a show, right? It's in the conditioning, it's part of the show. But if we take the show too seriously, we forget we're on stage as actors.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. You have to just remember you are on a stage and don't take it seriously. This is why I joke so much about quote unquote spirituality and creativity and art and all of those things. It's because I don't want it to be the stuffy, like, you know, very serious subject that we have to play around it. We have to understand and remember at the end of the day that this is all a game. And
Yeah.
the cool thing is that we can condition ourselves as human beings. I don't know if it's Arthur Rimbaud or some other author who said that genius is the recovery of childhood at will. And when I saw that, it really stuck with me, man. It was like, that's it. Like, imagine you're an adult equipped with all of this power and knowledge and wisdom and all of these things, and you recover your inner child at will. And you combine that with a healthy parent that's going to take care of and heal and tend to this child while you allow this child to express itself in this world. That really is the definition of genius. And when people hear the word genius, feel like a lot of people have judgment around that because it sounds a bit like self-centered, like, who do you think you are? But
Yeah.
it's not who you are. It's you have a genius. We all have a genius.
Yep.
It's just something that we have. Bob says,
Absolutely.
your inner child has beliefs and fears, and see how they may be impacting your current mindset or actions. Yeah. Well, the child definitely has beliefs and fears that have been programmed, have been
The
conditioned.
actor of the child.
The actor of the child definitely has those
Macaulay Culkin.
self-protection mechanisms that are developed, that are impacting the mindset and the actions. But the real being, the heart, the child is pure. It can never be changed. It can never be affected.
Absolutely. You know, whenever I create any kind of content, I always have these two kind of filters that goes through, and one is the Jeff character filter, and the other is the inner child filter. And I know it immediately. And you and I have talked about it in the past, this idea of where are you creating from? And are you creating from a place of, okay, this content needs to attract a certain kind of client and a certain kind of customer and have a certain kind of person like it? Or is it coming from a place of, I just think it's freaking funny and I'm just going to post it?
Yep, absolutely.
Just 'cause. I don't care who likes it. I like it. So
yeah, you know, I heard, and I know that LinkedIn doesn't like certain things. I know that it penalizes certain types of content. I know I shouldn't be posting 2 posts in the same hour, but if I feel like it, I'm gonna do it.
yeah,
You know, it's like, it's fun, and yeah, it's not gonna be seen by as many people, but like the energy of the thing that's happening spontaneously in this moment, I am not gonna sit on it and schedule. Nothing against scheduling posts in advance or creating things in advance, or having a strategy, by the way. Like, I have nothing against those things. I'm not saying, oh, you only create from this place, but at the end of the day, the process of creating itself has to be joyful. The process of creating itself has to be has to be meaningful in and of itself, not only when and if people see it, like it, comment on it, DM you, buy from you, that sort of thing.
Yes. I love this comment and I love this question. I want to kick this over to you. So for those who are listening, why do you think so Brian Gilbert asked this question. Sup, Brian? Why do you think we attach to our tribes being versus being more open-minded and pluralistic? How do we best help people who are stuck in their camps and resist different perspectives? I love this question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Why I think we attach to our tribes is because a sense of belonging and, you know, false belonging and false security. When I say false belonging and security, is because if you only belong because you're not upsetting people and you're not saying something that is different from their current beliefs and whatnot, it's not really a sense of belonging. You're just suppressing who you are in order to not be, quote unquote, kicked out. You know, so we attach to our tribes, not we, but like a lot of people attach to their tribes because they're afraid that that they think their identity is tied to that. Like, I am my nationality, I am my religion, I am this, I am that. And if I upset people, or if I am not part of this, then who am I? And again, it's really all driven by ego. Again, not to say that ego is a bad thing, but you know, it's just driven by this fear that I am this person, this character, this identity, and part of this character that I'm constructing. If you're like, right, you know, this as an author, right? Like you give the character characteristics, and one of them is, what tribes and groups does it belong to? And if you chip away part of that identity, you begin to see that, like, ooh, if I can chip it away, at what point do I stop being me? Like, if I start removing limbs from my body, at what point do I not become me? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And you start to see it for the illusion that it is. And it's scary. So you're like, let's get together and keep repeating the same ideas and thoughts and revalidating ourselves. It's great. And how do we best help people who are stuck in their camps and resist different perspectives? We don't. I don't. I don't, quote unquote, help anybody. I don't. All we can do is be who we are and bring our energy to the world, express ourselves, express our joy, and let people can decide whenever they want to. If they want to, they decide to make that leap, that jump, but we cannot and we do not help them out. It's not our job to help. It's not our job to, there's no saving. Nobody needs to be saved. Nobody needs to be helped. Maybe they chose that. Maybe they want that. Maybe they're happier there. That's okay. You know,
That's a radical thing to say these days because, you know, we live in a very activist day and age
oh God,
where
yeah.
that concept is anathema to a lot of people out there, especially like, you know, and I use this generously, the thought leaders.
That's why when you said spiritual thought leader, it's like, wow, man,
You know,
I'm a spiritual thought leader. Yeah.
this idea that you're not living the life that you're supposed to live unless you are forcibly changing the world around you. You are forcibly changing the way other people think, act, behave, interact, all of it. And that somehow you're lacking or you're deficient if you look at everything that's, you know, quote, wrong with the world and are not doing everything you can every minute of the day to change all of it. And that seems to have like taken root in the zeitgeist as like absolute fact. And yet I think about the people, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but I think
please do. I'm
traditionally you look at the ones who've tried to change the world by force versus the ones who've changed the world by example.
Yes. Thank you. Yep.
And, you know, we all know those. So I don't need to get into every single last example. You know, we can all think of immediately one person who's changed the world by example versus one person who's tried to change it by force. And they can both change it. But this comes bach to which energy is that coming from?
The word there. Bingo, the word, the energy.
By example, right? It's like you're changing it from love.
Yep. Which energy is it coming from? And I talk about this a lot. You are literally creating things by giving them your attention and your energy. And when you fight against, you are creating more of what is. Because it is an energy. It wants to survive. This collective idea that kind of like the reason why my website is called Brands Are Alive is because I believe brands are living entities. They take on a life of their own at some point. All right. So ideas are the same way. We are just vessels for the ideas to express themselves. Ideas take on these life forms. They take on a life of their own. And if you keep fighting them, they are going to resist. An emotion is also going to resist. You know, when you try to suppress an emotion, have you ever tried to like stop being angry? Stop being sad right now. Yeah.
Calm down. Yeah. Good talk.
I've said that in the past to myself and to other people. Didn't work very well.
Polarity creating more polarity though.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But what you can do if you want to create change or you want to invite somebody to move away from something that you think is life negating as opposed to life affirming is to present a better alternative or a better option and make it accessible to them so that when they see it, they go, oh, okay, I can have that. And without all of these life negating elements, I can go in this camp and it's safe for me. And look, this person is presenting an example that I want to emulate, that I want to try that. That's what we can do. But the reason why we go and we look out there to the world and everything is because it frees a lot of people from the responsibility of looking at ourselves. It's so much easier to just concern ourselves with the world and saving the world instead of tending to the inner child that we brush under the rug.
All the time. I think it's a really, really good question by Bob here. And I think it speaks to this really directly. It's you know, do you ask your inner child what it needs to feel safe, loved, and valued? Can this help us understand what areas of self-care, self-compassion, and self-acceptance need our attention?
That is that's a great question and comment, Bob. Yes, straight to my heart, Bob. That was amazing. That is like, I do this almost every day. I don't want to say every day without a fail, but I do this almost every morning. One of the first things I do in the morning is I ask myself, my child, whatever you want to call it, myself, what do you need from me to feel safe? What do you need from me today? How can I serve you today? What do you need in this moment? How are you feeling in this moment? One of the first things to kind of clear in the morning, if there's anything that was just sitting there overnight, simmering at night, working through any emotions that need to be worked through, and just remind myself, hey, today I want you to really protect your boundaries. I want you to protect your time and space. Today I want you to protect this. Today this is what I need from you. Today I need more breaks than usual. You get the answer. You know what your inner child needs. So that's such a good question. And yes, it can help us tremendously in understanding the areas of self-care and self-compassion, acceptance that need our attention. Because if you do this long enough and you are aware long enough and you allow yourself to say what needs to be said without judgment, you begin to see the patterns. So then you begin to see, oh, this thing keeps coming again and again and again. Is there a bigger theme? Is there something that needs to be looked into in my life, in my past? Is there a belief that needs to be healed? Is there something that I need to create for myself in order to support my inner child? A great question, Bob.
It's a great question. I love that. And I think that an answer just hits it right on the money. That's it. And this it's all woven into the same idea too. It's this changing the world by example and not by force. If you tend to your inner child, truly tend to your inner child, and you can come back home to that place of joy, of creativity, of centeredness, of groundedness, despite all the swirling tornadoes going on around you. And there's a lot, especially if you're in Oklahoma or Nebraska this time of year. Hang in there, rough. You can do that, or Texas, where you are.
Yeah.
I can go down there too. If you can do that, then you will radiate an energy that will be contagious. And I know after the last 3 years, we can't use the word contagious anymore, but what the hell?
Oh yeah, please let's use it. Let's use those words and let's try to eliminate all that stuff that's attached to it that shouldn't be. You know, it's interesting, and I'm going off a tangent here, but words, they get projections onto them, but they're just words. They're just labels for us to try to understand things, you know. Anyway, one of the things I thought about is how much the connection to the inner child has to do with our sense of self-worth and valuing ourselves just for the sake of valuing ourselves and feeling worthy, right? A lot of people think about the sense of self-worth as something to be cultivated because either they want to stop a pain or because they understand at some level that it helps them achieve more in life. And both of these things are true. Having a higher sense of self-worth helps you achieve more, it helps you become more, and it helps you obviously feel better. But the bigger underlying thing for me is that this sense of valuing the inner child and valuing ourselves and caring for ourselves just for the sake of it, just because we are worth it. We are worth that effort. The inner child is worth that effort. So when we think of all the creative things we do and the things that we do just for fun on a day-to-day basis, for me, for many years before, I used to only do things if there was a point. Like, what's the point of this thing? Even if I were to do something for fun, it was because I needed to blow off some steam before I go back to, you know, the next task, as opposed to just sit in the backyard with a stick, you know, and do nothing.
Just because.
Just because, exactly. Just because you don't have to do things for a particular purpose or reason, or, you know, you are allowed to do things spontaneously just because you feel like it in the moment. It feels good to you. Go do that.
That's it. Self-care.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, you know, self-care. And a lot of times people confuse it for self-maintenance.
Yes.
Right. So it'd be like, oh, self-care is taking a bath. Yeah, that's great, but you know, that's not that's nice. I mean, I love my hot baths. Don't get me wrong, but you want to do these joyful things for yourself. But there's self-maintenance, and then there's self-care. There's this tending to yourself and looking at your inner child and asking it what it needs and doing what we can and moving in that direction. Sometimes we say, I need more money. I need more time. I need more whatever. I need more. No. You don't really. Yes, those things will make it easier, but you really don't. You can always choose 1% better. You can always give yourself 1% better every day.
Yeah, those things aren't going to fill that hole either, because they won't. It's like this kind of bottomless hole. You know, it has no beginning and no end, and you'll toss more money into it. You'll toss more validation. You'll toss a new relationship. You'll toss all these, and it'll just come out and will disappear. You're like, well, where the hell did that go?
Yeah, and you know, that's such a good point, actually, because I remember a time when I used to just throw money at it and be like, this is a problem. I'm just going to throw money at it. This is a thing. I'm going to throw money at it. Like, let me just spend and see if spending makes me feel better. Yeah. You know, let me buy this food or this thing or whatever, and it's going to make me feel better. I have a problem. I have a problem, an internal problem. I'm going to hire this coach, and this coach is going to fix it. You know, it just doesn't work that way. It's really all a relationship between you and yourself.
Absolutely. And they say, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
I love that. I had to learn that one the hard way. I spent years just traveling and, you know, it wasn't for the sake of the experience. It was to try to chase something. I kept thinking I was always one road trip away from this great epiphany, this great aha moment that was going to change my entire life and give me this inspiration that was just elusive.
I did that for 8 years too. And it was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's never out there, because out there is in here and in here is out there. It's just a projection of what's in here. It's all an illusion. It's all this, you know, use whatever word you want for it, simulation, matrix, whatever. But it's this idea of We're all connected to everything, everyone. It's all just an illusion looking back at itself in all these different ways. So if you're not good where you are with what you have, where you are, they say, I love this expression, grow where you're planted.
Yes. Spot on.
And, if you're like a plant saying, well, screw this, and you jump out of the pot and you try to like go to another pot, 2 houses over, you're like, all right, time to grow now. Let's go, baby.
And you keep doing that and you don't give yourself the time and space to see that growth. You're like, why am I not growing 24 hours after you've planted in a new place? Let me go somewhere else. I need more air. I need more this. I need more that. And it's never going to happen.
We do it in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We do it in friendships. We do it in jobs. We do it in careers. We do it in all these different things that we keep wondering, why do these same problems just keep following us?
Right? Isn't it interesting? Yeah, it's very interesting. I realized much later in life that if something has happened 3 times in your life, it's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's probably something. It's definitely something in your subconscious that needs to be looked into.
Absolutely.
Bob has a comment or question. Can you work with your inner child to heal past wounds and grow towards a happier and more fulfilling future, reflecting on self-compassion, forgiveness, and setting healthy boundaries? Bob always asking the amazing questions.
Oh, yeah. Bringing it strong today, my man.
Yeah, I know, right? Can you work with your inner child to heal past wounds and grow towards a happier and more fulfilling future? What's funny? I just remember one of these meditations, one of these healing meditations, where I wanted to heal my inner child, and my inner child flipped the table and it was like, no, I am healing you. And I was like, I'm proud of you. I was like, no, I am proud of you, Aleana. It was like, whoa, you're schooling me. It's like, yep, I'm fine. You're the one who needs healing. I don't. Yeah. So
what an awesome love fest that is back and forth. Like, I love you. No, you're awesome. No, you're awesome.
Oh yeah, no. One of the crazy things I do is I actually have conversations with all of my states of awareness. I talk to them like they're separate beings. The emotions, the mind, the logical mind, my intuition, which is the gut, the second brain, the body, all of them, they have their own agendas and their own needs and wants, and their own priorities. One is concerned with survival, and the other one is like, I need to make sense of things. And the other one's like, I feel stuff. And they all you have to have different conversations with all of them, and then there are like all these different parts thank you, Annette. And you have all these different parts, of yourself that are speaking to each other. So yes, we can work with the inner child, and we should absolutely work with the inner child to heal these traumas and wounds and things like that. But we are not healing the child if we think about it, because that part of us is fine. It's always at peace. It's always cool.
It's always
great.
there.
It's always there. It's great.
It's always there.
Great.
I actually spoke to my gut last night, and it said, I hate you for that bread pudding.
I do that to myself sometimes. Like, I remember 2 nights ago, I made that like not great decision to eat rice and beans and onions and stuff late at night. I was like, I had a horrible sleep that night. I was like, why did I do this? Mm-hmm.
This is great. And last week, or actually on Monday, Jen was there, little Jen, right? You've been schooled by little Jen so many times. Yeah. I love little Jen. I love like just BSing with little Jen, because when you're talking to the inner child of somebody versus when you're talking to their representative.
Yes. I know when I'm talking to a person who's opening their heart to me versus somebody who's putting up a front. I can smell it. I can see it in a message and anywhere. I can see it 100 miles away. It's very obvious.
I can smell it too. It usually smells like a car or like one of those things you smell in the clubs. So it's hitting you hard.
It smells like fear. It smells like fear to me. It's like I'm afraid. Yeah.
Here's one. So for all you folks out, and actually this applies to dating as well as job interviews. So we're going to think about this. When you're going on a date or a job interview, think about, are you having a conversation between 2 grown-up representatives or between 2 inner children?
Wow, that is.
And then afterwards, like people say, the date went great versus
why is that?
Nightmare. Why is that?
Why is that?
Like really, why is that? Was it what they're wearing or where you went? You could go to the nicest restaurant. You can have it won't matter. Mm-hmm. Or you could just take a walk on a beach. It doesn't make a difference.
There's something true about that person, whether it's on a date or in a job interview, a new connection. You've touched something true and real about that person. That's why we talk so much about vulnerability, and it's such a hot topic. And everybody's like, be vulnerable, be authentic. But what does that even mean? It's like showing parts of who you are and showing parts of your truth. People need that
Yeah.
because that's what creates that connection, and that remembers that we are all one, like you said, all connected. It's like, oh, I see myself. Ram Dass said it best, inspiration is God making contact with itself. I love that. Right? Like, yeah.
That's
Like,
good.
it's making contact with itself. It's like, oh,
You
there you
threw
are.
that one in. That's
There you
good.
are. It's like, I see you.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you too. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's my father there. The inner child is sleigh riding right now on a golf course. I love it. Ride that sleigh. That's amazing. Then Brian, would you consider inner child being similar to a Holy Spirit, that internal counselor, and it's the branding of different institutions or expressions from different camps trying to explain a similar experience with different words? Fascinating. What do you think about that?
Question. Interesting question.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. Would I consider it? I actually thought of the child as maybe the closest thing to what we call our spirit or our soul, but is it the Holy Spirit? I don't know, honestly. I don't know the answer to that. I know that it depends on
I think it depends on one's definition of that. I think.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, because I don't know what the meaning of Holy Spirit here is. It like the religion? I don't know what it means, so I don't know. Yeah. But I do know that when I think of spirit, or the person's spirit, a person's soul, the inner child, the heart is as close as possible to that. It's not quite that, but it's as close as possible to that. The internal counselor. Yeah. It's that inner wisdom. It's the wise. That's why I said it's an ancient voice. It's eternal. It knows everything there is to know, and it's fine. Its nature is infinite peace and love and joy and excitement and curiosity and all the beautiful feelings that you want to experience. And this is why they feel so good when you feel them, because you're like, oh, I am home. That's who I am. Yeah.
It's home.
Yeah.
Anything we feel like that, it's just, that's why it feels so good. Whenever we feel true joy, whenever we feel love, whenever we feel acceptance, inspiration, creativity, we wonder like, okay, why does this feel so good? Because it's coming home, because that's the way things are. And anything that's not that, it's just a contrast. It's a manifestation of what isn't.
And you know what, Jeff, like as you're speaking, like I just realized, hold on, we talk about it. And the reason we talk about it is because knowing is this experience, but we talk about it to try to explain to each other as quote unquote separate beings. This is what I'm experiencing. Are you experiencing that? This is what I call it. You call it that. Once we have a word or a label for it, it's like, oh, this is an experience in common that makes it feel more real, because we can all agree about the physical world and our experience of it. So it feels very real. And in the same way, we try to rationalize it and understand it with the mind as one of the states of awareness, but not the only way to know. And in fact, knowing, as I started earlier when we started talking about this, is not about just understanding it with the words. So we can try to find the words to describe it, but at the end of the day, the only way to know is to experience it. When you speak of it of somebody else and you find words that you're like, oh yeah, I called it that, me too, that word feels right, that word feels right, this is my description of it, I felt it too. Okay, great. That kind of there's reassurance. But there's only knowing, and knowing can only happen within. Yeah.
Knowing, that's it. When you think about that intuition, when you talk to somebody and they meet somebody, when you say, I just know they're the one. I just know it.
You have to be careful with your devices, but yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the job for me. I don't, how? It's like the salary, I just know. I just know.
Yep. Yeah. And we, maybe because our society and our culture nowadays, there's so much emphasis on just the mind and the rational mind, and feelings are perceived as this like inferior thing. And there's almost something virtuous about suppressing your emotions and not looking at your emotions and not being affected by them, because you are a superior human being if you are a robot. But emotions serve a purpose. We process billions of bits of information at all times. We can't really just try to use just our rational mind to understand or know the answer to things. Our intuition and our emotions tell us so much more quickly, because they have processed billions of pieces of information, and just here's the answer for you. The mind is there to double check, just making sure, are we good? Have I thought this through in many ways? But the emotion is really, usually it just tells you, this is it.
Internal compass. The mind, I think, is very overrated. And you can find this immediately by talking to a lot of people.
Mine
You're
is
like,
not.
oh
Stick
yeah,
to
mine is
myself.
definitely overrated.
I just, you know, it's,
I think a lot of it, honestly, is because what we consider to be this kind of rational, objective, intelligent mind is really just a program that has been informed by these different experiences that we take as truth, and we try to make sense of it, and then we filter it through this mind and say, well, that's obviously objectively true.
How do you know that? You can never be objective. You are a subject. As long as you are experiencing something from this human mind perspective, of course it's subjective.
Absolutely.
I had to apologize to my mind. And if you didn't think I was crazy that I talked to my states of awareness and my inner child, I apologized to my mind at some point, because I realized that I was giving it so much more responsibility than it really signed up for. I was like, I'm sorry that I gave you all this crap to deal with. And I'm sorry that I confused myself for you, and you for me. I know, I understand now what your function is. Why don't you take some rest every once in a while?
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And now it cooperates, and now it works so much better, surprisingly. So
give it a rest, give it some R&R, give it a spa day.
Right?
It needs that sometimes.
Give it a spa day. Give it
we're working to death. We're overthinking everything, overanalyzing, beating it all to death, and just trying to 1 minute to the next. What do I have to do now? What do I have to do now? What do I got to do tomorrow? What do I got to do the next week? And I'm freaking out about this. I'm freaking out about that. And it's constantly scanning and scanning and scanning. Just let it breathe for a little bit.
And then from that place, you can say, what's next? And then you can listen. You can listen.
And you'll know. You'll know what to do in every moment, in every situation, if you just kind of listen to it. I spent so many years of my life reactive. Highly reactive. And highly reactive is not a good place to be for yourself. And it's definitely not a good place to be for people around you. And it takes a long time to undo that. A long time to undo it. And then once you do, you realized how reactive you truly were.
Yeah.
And then you look back, you're like, well, damn, that was a slice of life.
Or you can also, what you can do if you are finding yourself in a state of, reactivity right now, is just simply accept things the way they are. Okay, I say simply, obviously it's not that easy, right? But if you just let things be, even though they're not the way you want them to be, and just let them be, then you don't have to do things. You don't have to do something about things. Even though you don't like them, you realize, oh, I don't like it, but I actually don't have to do anything. I don't have to change it. I don't have to address it. It's not my responsibility to do that.
You don't. Does anybody have any other questions in the chat? We're at the hour mark, which is, the best conversations just flow and flow and flow. And this has been amazing. So before I wrap it up, I just want to see if anybody else has any questions in the chat. And in the meantime, I want to give a quick announcement for anybody who is in the tri-state area of New York, or knows somebody in the tri-state area of New York, or has heard of the tri-state area of New York.
To be there.
We have an amazing event happening next Thursday, July 6th at 6 p.m. at Slattery's Pub in New York on 36th Street between 5th and 6th. It is going to be a LinkedIn meetup / the launch of our highly anticipated Dreamers Cafe.
Oh, wow. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling really good. And I want to give Aleana a shout out on this, because we were talking about this a few weeks back, and Aleana had the brilliant idea of giving some kind of a physical symbol of this community to the people there. And for those who are not familiar with it, the Dreamers Cafe is a community of people in midlife, and that can be as broadly defined as you want. So there's no actual age limit, but adults. So like no 8-year-olds are going to be there, but beyond that, we're pretty flexible, who are ready for the second act of their life, to rediscover their creativity, to rediscover their passion, and to be a part of a community of people in a similar station in life who are here to simply encourage them on that path. And one thing we're going to be giving away are dream catchers.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love it.
I just got a whole bunch of these. So if you come on down to Slattery's, you're going to get yourself a dream catcher on the house, put it on your key ring, and it will be a physical daily reminder of two things. Number one, that you always have a community right here in the Dreamers Cafe that's got your back and will push you and encourage you to chase those crazy dreams, and also that you're not done yet.
Yeah. And of who you are, because remember how we said we have to rehearse who we are, the programming. We choose to program ourselves, our avatar, any way we want to. At any point in time, you can reconnect with your higher self. And then every time you look at that, it can remind you of who you're meant to be in this world. And all you have to do is practice that until that becomes your natural state. That becomes more comfortable than the avatar that you're programmed with, that you've been programmed with unintentionally, that you haven't really chosen yourself.
Absolutely. Shravan, I'm sorry. I don't think we saw your question earlier. So
could you post it again?
So kind of retype that. That would be amazing. Sorry about that. These things get lost in the shuffle sometimes.
Yeah.
I love it. Give away a Harley for the midlife crisis. And, but this is it. I mean, this is the whole point. This is exactly what we're talking about. It's like, what is the midlife crisis? But somebody who gets lost in the story, and they get disconnected from themselves, and they're trying to fill that hole with stuff. And the stuff takes on thousands of different manifestations. But at the end of the day, it's all the stuff to trying to fill that hole that it'll never get filled. Harley will be fun for a bit. And the sports car will be fun for a bit. And the hairpiece might be fun for a bit. Well,
at some point, you have to give it back. Even our bodies, at some point, we have to give it back.
Got to give it back. So the only thing that can fill that hole is the one thing that you actually never lost. Ever. And will always, always be with you. So going to wrap up the show. Shravan, hit us up.
With a question.
DMs. Just send us a DM. Happy to connect with you. And to everybody else here, thank you so much for coming out. Looking forward to the next episode of 40 going on 4. Hit us up. Mega Rain and Aleana, from the bottom of my heart, my friend. I am so grateful for you. Thank you for coming out and sharing your delectable wisdom with everybody today.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
Enjoy the weekend, friends.
So, bye.